Hi everyone, welcome back to Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics. It's late night in the shop and we have this 2001 Toyota Camry behind me that has a check engine light, and the customer complaint is she couldn't fill her gas tank. Okay, probably an EVAP problem. I mean, what other problems can a early 2000s Camry have? Like oxygen sensors, EVAP, that's about it. So let's jump in, look at the scanner. We're in the engine menu, and I think this check engine light was recently reset. She took it to another shop and she told me they disconnected her actual canister, the big vent hose, so she could fill her tank, and they quoted her for a new canister for like $700. I mean, it's a pretty common failure on these cars. They just get clogged up, but we're gonna see if we can fix it the Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics way. No parts required. Man, I'll maybe blow it out or something. But here are the codes anyways. 440, 441, 446. Those three, those are pending. History codes, 141, I guess has a bad oxygen sensor. Vehicle speed sensor A fault, not sure what that's all about. Current codes, same deal there. I'm just curious in the troubleshooter to look up the 446. Right there. Get a little information. It uses vacuum type EVAP control system. Purge vacuum is forcefully introduced into the entire system. Leaks are detected by monitoring changes in pressure. So it does have a vapor pressure sensor. Vacuum switching valve for canister closing valve and replacement of three-way VSV. For vapor pressure sensor with a VSV for pressure switching valve are some of the differences from previous system of internal pressure monitor. So this is the late model, I guess, the Toyota EVAP system. 446 sets when VSV for pressure sensing valve is on, and ECM judges there's no vacuum continuity between vapor pressure sensor, fuel tank, and charcoal canister. Or when VSV is off, atmospheric pressure is detected in fuel tank. Or when VSV is for closed canister valve is on and atmospheric pressure is detected in canister and fuel tank. So there's kind of a logic. If this DTC is present with 440, pursue the 440 last. That's the generic EVAP fault. Confirm repair of EVAP system, perform complete drive cycle procedure. Look for disconnected vacuum hoses at air filter housing. Why the heck don't we start there even though we suspect an actual canister fault? So under the hood, we see our traditional Toyota style EVAP system with one valve right here, right on the air box. You see draws fresh air from the air box, and then that goes to the canister. So that's not really a typical, everyday system. Usually the vent is just somewhere in the back with a filter. This thing filters right through the air box, which is kind of cool. And then our EVAP purge line comes in here. This is the purge solenoid. And finally that vacuum valve goes right back to the intake manifold. Easy enough. Let's jack the car up and look at the canister underneath. So first thing I like to do on these Toyotas is just run through the actuator test, make sure all the vacuum switching valves click. So there's a whole bunch of them. Canister pressure control VSV, EVAP VSV. Let's start with tank bypass VSV. I mean, this is a little overcomplicated, to tell you the truth. Let's just try one, see which one clicks. So, let's see. That's this guy. That's the purge valve. That's what they call the EVAP VSV alone. Off. Exit. Next one is, there's a canister pressure control VSV and the tank pressure bypass VSV. These, I think, well, let's see. Let's try that one. That one might be the little vent solenoid on the air box. I don't know why it says engine running. There you go. That's this guy here, right here. Listen to that guy. Whoa, that's way zoomed in. Let's see. On, off. Very nice click. So we got one more to go. That one is going to be under the vehicle. Right here, let's see what this rat's nest looks like. A little rusty here, a little rusty crusty. There's our charcoal canister and a whole bunch of hoses. So what I'm interested in is this guy going to actuate. Let's see here. Let's see, exit out of here. So we did canister pressure control VSV and EVAP VSV. Let's do tank pressure bypass. That should be the only VSV back here. Continue. Wireless scan tools are very nice in cases where you can't do it from the driver's seat. Let's see, on. Very nice click here. There's that guy. Okay. Now, just because these things click doesn't mean they're good, but at least it gives us somewhere to start. So now, what do we want to do? Well, if you can't fill the tank, I don't know exactly what they cut off here. I mean, this hose looks original, but if this valve right here is not letting flow through from the canister itself out through this hose when you're filling the car, then that would be a problem. How do we check that? We could hook up some compressed air to the filler neck and just pressurize the system and see how well the air comes out of here. So here's a quick and dirty check to see how backed up this canister is. We got shop air, Harbor Freight pressure regulator turned all the way down, air nozzle, just got that tied in, and here I just made a standard gas cap adapters, took it apart, put a Schrader valve in there, pressed rather, with a bicycle pump handle. So we're going to force air in and monitor our vapor pressure live on the scanner. It gives you in inches of mercury and inches of mercury. I don't know why they give you two data pits. Oh, millimeters of mercury, inches of mercury. Okay, so let's turn it up just a little bit. You can hear the air start flowing. Alright, here we go. So this is less than you would be filling in a gas station, and look at that pressure rise. Just keeps going and going and going. Ramp it up a little bit. And it's probably going to max out the sensor. So let's shut that guy off. You can actually hear it discharging somewhere through the canister. So we definitely have a problem. Now, question is, where's that big hose that comes from the tank to the canister? So there's this guy here that goes up to the tank, this fat one, right to the canister, and then out of the canister it should go through this valve here. If we can take off this really crusty screw. Not much left of that guy. But this valve should be open. So I'm going to try to take this valve off the canister, or the whole thing out itself. It's not going to be pretty. I want to check the operation of this guy. I believe there's this vacuum line that comes up here. And that should open and close basically our vent valve. And we could look at a diagram of the system. So, what's the best way to do this? So this canister is divided into two halves, the tank half and the fresh air side. And somewhere in there, there's a blockage. Let's think about our diagnostic process here. Our pressure is still decaying. Alright, so I managed to get this vent valve off of the canister. There's just one rusty bolt screw holding it in, got it out with some pliers, no big deal. Now we're going to rerun the same experiment. We're just trying to find the source of the blockage here. So let's ramp this up. There's our vapor pressure. It's still maxed out. It's definitely coming out where my finger is. I still don't like that. We're building so much pressure in the system. That should evacuate right away. And there it is. It's starting to drop. So it looks like that's not where our main problem is. Alright, next step. Disconnect the main vent hose, this guy right here, from the tank that goes to the canister. Let's repeat our flow check. Focus you guys in on the scanner. Probably gonna fill the garage with gas fumes, all in the name of science. It's still climbing. Huh. How are you supposed to fill your tank? The canister is disconnected. Unless we're missing something from this operation. We might have to look a little deeper into the description and operation of the system. By the way, there's the slow decay. Interesting. So I would have expected that big vent hose from the tank to the canister to be open. It doesn't look like it is. So is throwing a canister at this car going to fix something? At this point, I doubt it, just from common sense. But I think we need to look into the description and operation. Is there another valve on top of the tank that might be stuck, like a rollover valve? I've seen that on a Subaru before. And we can check this canister for flow just through, you know, one side out the other and see if it flows freely. All right, flow check number 3. We got a 5/8 inch coolant hose connected to the inlet of the canister. And look, you blow through it, completely free. It comes out. Let's see if I can show this to you. Comes out right there. Beautiful. You can even put the valve back in. This is a one-way valve. This guy up here. Should put the O-ring back in just a sec. Alright, I think mission is accomplished. We fixed it with no parts required. Let me show you the thought process and what I did to get there. First, I remember there being a really good document from Toyota on these EVAP systems. And if you go to BBB Industries, this guy right here, EVAP System Information 96 to 01 models, early type and late type EVAP systems. This is a TSB, and I just looked it up on BBB Industries under emissions, and you can save it as a PDF, which is awesome. And well, in order to diagnose any system, we need to know how it works. We can follow flow charts, but they tell you disconnect this hose, put vacuum on this hose, here's the result. I like a picture and actually seeing what happens. And you can see this system, it has a lot of different connections and one-way valves and check valves and this bypass valve and the fill check valve. It, you know, we can check every single component, but let's go back to the basics. What was the customer complaint? Hard to fill the gas tank, right? And if that's the case, can we fix the system, you know, all the codes, by addressing the customer complaint? I think that's a good way to start. And, you know, she told me that the other shop disconnected some hose and she could fill her tank. All the hoses were connected when I got the car, so who knows if they reconnected them, but let's start from scratch and follow this diagram. So what does it take to fill the system? In this case, both the early and the late follow this description right here. ORVR, onboard vapor recovery, is fancy name for refilling your tank. During refueling, low pressure above the diaphragm in the onboard recovery valve lifts, allowing fuel vapors into the charcoal canister. At the same time, the air drain valve opens and the charcoal absorbs the fuel vapors. That's it. 2 sentences describing what needs to happen to refill this tank. Now, if you remember our pressure check, we put the air hose on here, and I was like, well, why isn't the air coming out at the hose that we disconnected at the charcoal canister? Well, that's why, because of this valve. There needs to be low pressure on top of here. So you stick your nozzle in and it fills the tank here, but this little vent tube connecting the neck to the top of this recovery valve cannot have pressure. So our test was invalid. That's where this information is gold. So what I did was disconnected the line right here, right before the recovery valve, put the pressure back on, and if I let that line, you know, if I just sucked on it a little bit, that valve opened up just fine, and we got vapors out of our big vent line for the filling operation. So we're not concerned about this valve anymore. What else has to happen? This air drain valve right here, the air drain valve opens and the charcoal absorbs the fuel vapors. That's the first thing we went to And this thing is a little complicated. So let's get it off the car and see exactly how it works. So I got this baby off the car. So that just goes to atmosphere. And what do all these hoses connect to? Well, let's take a quick peek. So there are the hoses that are disconnected. So this guy goes in there like that. Plugs, the big end is obviously into the charcoal canister. Now the little hoses, there's a nipple right here and a nipple right here. And those are coming from this guy, which is just a T. And the other end goes to the atmospheric end of our pressure sensor. So this is all atmosphere because this nipple is nothing, just a T, and that's open to atmosphere. So the top of this valve is just a vent to atmosphere. Okay, keep that in mind. The other two hoses, you can see this is like a double valve. There's one down here and one over here that's offset. We're worried about the top one in this orientation. The bottom one is just, see, this pipe comes in, this hose, that goes to our air box. That's like the fresh air intake into the canister when it's being purged. And finally, this guy is the control, vacuum control for the fresh air intake. So whenever purge is applied, it connects to this nipple right here. This is our purge line actually. So whenever we get vacuum, this valve, the bottom one, automatically opens and lets fresh air into the canister. It makes perfect sense once you see it on the vehicle and follow the hoses. So we're not concerned about that part, at least not yet. We're concerned about why can't she fill her gas tank. So basically, if we have pressure here, you're filling the tank, the air has to escape somewhere. This has to be a free-flowing system from here to here, not back. It's a one-way valve. So my experiment was, I blew on here with my mouth and I really couldn't get much through. It was just a little bit. I applied vacuum here, and keep in mind this is just atmospheric pressure at all times, and the valve opened up and I could blow through. I'm like, well, that doesn't really make sense because there isn't supposed to be vacuum applied to the top nipple. Then I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna blow through this even harder, and I blew through it and some junk came out out of this hose, and now you can hear the valve freely opening up, and I think that's it. We fixed this vehicle. She can fill her gas tank. Now, I didn't say that all the codes are going to be fixed. There's like 3 codes in there. But one component, failed component in the system, could potentially cause all this, all the problems. And we don't know if something was left disconnected. She ran it for a while. They reconnected it. We don't know the exact details there. However, we fixed her complaint. So what I'm going to do is spray a little WD-40 in here just to prevent this valve from sticking again. And we'll pop this back on, and I'll take it to the gas station tomorrow maybe, fill it up. Yeah, I think we're done. So just using these 2 sentences right here help make sense of the entire, break the system up into different components and see which ones we're really after to address the customer complaint. I don't know about you guys, I learned something about Toyota EVAP systems. I don't deal with that many EVAP problems, but this one was kind of not just a check engine light, it's an actual, you can't fill your gas tank, it's kind of annoying. So with that, thanks a lot for watching. Read your information. This stuff is out there. You can find it. It's free. All you need to do is do a little research. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you next time. Bye-bye. Just a little bonus footage. Here's the flow test. We still have this connected to the inlet of the canister. We have our, what is this, the the air valve hooked back up. Check this out. You blow on this, free flow. Awesome. So this is nicely flowing now. It'll let the air out of the system. When you're refilling a tank, beautiful